You will never sit in my chair. Jonathan Connor's voice cut through the conference room like a razor, slicing into David Linton's ears. The room was dim, lit by a single swinging pendant lamp that cast flickering shadows over scattered contracts on the table. Rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows, the sound sharp and urgent, like the pounding of David's own heart. David's hands trembled slightly as he gripped his folder. He clenched his jaw, breathing shallow and tight. Jonathan sneered. You don't deserve it. Never will. Colleagues froze, the air seemingly solid. Even the tick of the wall clock felt unbearably loud. David slowly lifted his gaze, eyes locking on Jonathan. I'll play by the rules, he said. But inside, a fire of vengeance had already been lit. Memories of that night 3 years ago flashed before him. His proposal shredded in front of everyone, humiliation cutting deeper than any blade. He had clenched his teeth, swallowed his anger, and in that quiet vowed silently. One day everything would turn. 3 years passed. David carved his path quietly in the corporate trenches. From marketing manager to regional director, his name became synonymous with tireless effort. Every contract double-checked, every client call answered personally, every negotiation executed with precision. Jonathan always stood on the podium, applause, accolades, authority. Every proposal David painstakingly built had once been publicly torn apart. His competence questioned, his pride bruised. Every office encounter was a subtle reminder. Jonathan's dominance, his threat. Lunch breaks interrupted, meetings ignored, whispered laughter and glances. 1,000 invisible cuts. Even his personal life was gray. His girlfriend, Clara, always vanished into elite social events. Client dinner tonight. You handle yourself, she said casually over the phone. David hung up. Outside, neon lights shimmered across the rain-soaked streets. In the reflection, he swore silently. From now on, he would rely only on himself. The revenge plan quietly unfolded. Late at night, the office bathed in harsh white light, David scrolled through contracts and financial reports. His fingers danced across the keyboard like a pianist, yet every stroke was a calculated trap. He uncovered irregular funds, suspicious kickbacks, and began screenshots and encrypted backups. In the dusty archives, David crouched among thick binders, tracing clauses with meticulous attention. Lucas, from legal, transmitted data securely. Each keystroke added another thread to the web. David knew, the more secretive the move, the greater the ultimate advantage. He carefully tested finance's Nicole, legal's Lucas, and HR's Helen. You're not afraid? Nicole whispered. I've been afraid. Fear never solved anything, David said, eyes steady. Together, they compiled internal audits, cross-checked documents, and built an airtight network. David even casually brought up issues in the break room, reading reactions, gathering intel for the next move. David reached out to key clients, subtly hinting at risks. Clients demanded independent audits. Senior executives panicked, forced to act. David monitored every step, ensuring no detail slipped through. Every timestamp, every fund transfer, meticulously documented. Alone in the silent office, the sound of keyboards echoed. Rain pelted the windows, printers hummed. Contracts and financial sheets laid out like a chessboard. Jonathan sensed something amiss, calling repeatedly. David's calm, measured responses masked the tension beneath. Patience, isolation, anticipation. He waited for the perfect moment. In countless meetings, David and Jonathan clashed. Are you sure this project can be delivered? Jonathan asked, eyes sharp. David looked up, cool and collected. I've prepared a detailed plan, every step backed by data. Would you like to see it? Jonathan froze. Managers around the room held their breath. David's team backed up every file, every email, every piece of financial data. One night, he caught Jonathan secretly altering contract clauses. David silently captured screenshots, sending them to Lucas via secure channels. Jonathan had no idea. A faint smile crossed David's face. The time for exposure was near. Finally, an emergency board meeting was called. Bright lights, tense air, executives rigid with anticipation. David placed neatly organized evidence on the table, each document a cold blade pointing at Jonathan's misdeeds. "David, what are you implying?" asked the chairman quietly. "These are Jonathan Connor's long-standing violations. Kickbacks, irregular fund flows. I have full documentation," David said, voice unwavering. Jonathan's pupils dilated, sweat beading on his forehead. "How? Authority is temporary. Rules are permanent," David said, voice ice-cold. The chairman rapped the table. "Based on these reports, Jonathan is suspended pending investigation." Jonathan clenched his fists, powerless. Once untouchable, his authority shattered before the entire room. In the following weeks, Jonathan's deals unraveled. Clients pulled contracts, stock prices fell. David's meticulous plan had executed flawlessly within legal and corporate frameworks. Not a single misstep. Rain-soaked streets of San Francisco glimmered with neon reflections. David stood by the office window, files in hand, sunlight filtering through clouds. His shadow stretched across the floor, a confrontation between past darkness and present clarity. Clara approached, expression conflicted. "David, can we go back?" David shook his head softly. "No, let the past stay where it belongs." She opened her mouth. He raised a hand. "I want my life. On my terms. No one else." Sunlight spilled across the desk, sharp and clear. David exhaled, a faint smile touching his lips. Humiliation, oppression, and coldness. All had become nourishment for growth. Power plays were over. He now controlled his life. San Francisco streets shimmered wet after rain, neon reflections fragmented like memories. David Linton stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows, files neatly stacked, shadow cast long on the polished floor. Jonathan had been suspended, corporate restructuring complete. Clients returned, stocks stabilized. Humiliation, neglect, and pressure evaporated like mist. Clara lingered. "David, are we still?" David's gaze was steady. "No, the past is behind us." He gestured lightly to silence her. "I claim my own life. Depend on no one." Sunlight broke through clouds, illuminating the room in clear, calm light. David exhaled, a quiet smile forming. Cool, confident, free. All past humiliation and solitude had become fuel for growth. His victory wasn't just professional. It was the mastery of his own life. David tidied his desk, placed the files back in the cabinet. City lights reflected in the window, outlining him with unwavering clarity. He stepped toward the office, each step a declaration. The power games had ended. He was his own master. Rain, neon, quiet streets. The night serene, yet alive. David lifted his head to the horizon, lips curving in a faint smile. Revenge was complete. True freedom had just begun.